Hello, I am Sirion51. This is my first ever Minecraft video, and I just wanted to take a little bit of time to show off some of the builds that I've created, mainly with redstone. As you can see in the background, I have a really massive castle that I've dubbed the Imperial class castle. The designs I'm going to be featuring are based off of some of the ones I found on YouTube that I've somewhat modified, including the Etho hopper clock and other designs that I've found. So I hope you enjoy the video, and I do apologize for the quality of it. Okay, so here we are in my redstone testing world. As you can see, I've got quite a few things around me, but I'm going to be focusing on a few things here and there. So here we have a modified Etho clock. I've simply taken out the sticky piston and replaced it with a regular piston. I've also placed in 2 stacks and 23. This will actually run for exactly 1 minute. I have a comparator here that's going to deactivate this redstone torch once there are items inside this hopper, which will then deactivate the circuit that allows this to be powered and starting up the clock. Right here I have a simple stopwatch that I've designed plugged into the hopper clock, and it will only activate when the hopper clock is going. This timer is actually going to work exactly 1 second intervals. Over here I've actually placed some white stained glass that will count out each actual second that this thing is running. Over here is just a simple reset switch that I've put in to reset the timer. So let's go ahead and get this started. As you can see, this circuit is now deactivated. You can press this button all you want and it will not do anything. The clock is now active and it will run for exactly 1 minute before shutting off this redstone signal here, and then it will take another minute to reset itself. Over here you can see these monostable circuits activating, and each time one of the monostables gets activated, it will be exactly 1 second, dropping a piece of stained glass into here. When that hopper clock deactivates itself, there will be exactly 60 pieces of stained glass in here. Okay, so we're almost done here. Took me a little while to get the timing on this circuit for this. Okay, so that's deactivated itself, and if we pop over here, exactly 60 pieces. Let's go ahead and activate this, which will then start dropping the items back in there. When there are no longer any items in this hopper, it will activate this redstone torch, pushing the block back into place. And over here we can see this is already starting to go. Once this hopper is empty, this block will be pushed back into place, allowing the circuit to be used again. This is great for setting time limits in, say, like a parkour course where you have to actually jump across to an open door before it closes. And this circuit right here can easily be added in just to check your times on everything like that. So if you want to do a race course, this would be perfect for it. Okay, so this circuit's been reset. There are no longer any items in there, and because this is a regular piston, it just simply pushes this across and doesn't keep activating the hopper clock. Also, because there are no items in here, this redstone torch is now active again, activating this sticky piston down below and pushing this block back into the circuit. Okay, so over here we have my very basic item sending unit for a rail-based item transportation system. Unfortunately, this one can actually overflow quite easily because of the design of it. There is no limiter involved on it. I do have a larger scaled one that does have a limiter. This system consists mainly of a minecart with a chest on top of a powered rail with a hopper going into it that will be monitored by this comparator, which will then deactivate this redstone torch when items are being transported. When there are no longer any items being transferred into the chest, it will activate this T flip-flop here via this redstone torch, which will then send a signal to the redstone over here, activating the powered rail, sending it on its way. When it gets sent on its way, if there are items inside the chest, it will activate this detector rail with this comparator, activating the T flip-flop again, therefore deactivating the system. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. Okay. So as you can see over here, this redstone torch is now deactivated. When there are no longer any items, it will then reactivate the torch, activating the T flip-flop. This is more of a NOR latch type design right here because it will not activate this, regardless of whether or not the torch comes back on. Okay, let's see how it's doing. Okay, it's almost done. So this is going to send it on its way once the items are fully in, and as you can see, it activated, then deactivated immediately once the minecart passed over. Here's our receiving unit, which consists of a hopper facing to the side, comparator, redstone torch, and 2 redstone wires, and a redstone dust with a power rail on top of the hopper. Now it is very important that the hopper be facing sideways, because if it is not, then the items will go straight down and not get detected by the comparator. Okay, now that it's done, it's going to send it back on its way, and that's pretty much the system concluded. Okay, and over here we have my scaled up version, or as I like to call it, the industrial sending unit. This is actually hooked up to a counting circuit that I've designed. This will only allow one item to transfer through this hopper at a time. When it sends a signal out here, it will actually lock up this hopper right here, preventing all but one item from going through. This will then go through this comparator here, activating this monostable circuit, which I actually have constantly powered because it is powering and locking this etho clock right here. I have actually taken 5 stacks of items in this. This is how you limit the amount of items that go through the system. Right now it is set up to only allow for 5 stacks. Once those stacks are depleted, it will then send a pulse out through here, which will then activate this circuit right here, this switch. Once that is activated, it will then power the rail underneath the minecart with the chest and send it on its way. This one's a little bit different because it works with a NOR latch rather than a T flip-flop. The NOR latch will allow you to have an input from the outer side and not activate it. This part of the circuit right here will also deactivate this redstone torch. Once the cart has been sent on its way, this item will no longer be in there, and this will also lock up this hopper right here, preventing an overflow down over here. Once the circuit has been reset from this signal right here, received from this detector rail, it will then allow items to flow through again. This actually accurately measures out 5 stacks exactly. This comparator here is going to measure this hopper here, sending a signal down here and also deactivating this comparator, therefore allowing all the items that are currently in the pipeline to transfer into the chest before it is activated. This is just a simple counting unit right here that I put in just to see how many times the cart has gone off. So let's go ahead and give this a shot here. Let's go ahead and activate that and drop 5 stacks in here. I have another stack in here for once the item transportation is done, and then I'll pop that in to show that yes, it will only allow 5 stacks to go through. So let's go ahead and flip that switch, and as you can see, it is actually counting out here. And if we look inside this hopper, we will notice we will start to get a buildup. However, if we look here, there's always one item being transported through, which then make their way into the chest. Every item that goes through will activate a pulse, sending this wooden hoe into this hopper, therefore deactivating this circuit right here. And as you can see, it's counting each item going through the hopper line up there and going into this. Once again, once all these items are done, it will send a pulse through to the monostable circuit, or to the NOR latch over here. One thing I would like to mention about this pipeline that I've set up is it will always take from here, because all this stuff right here is going to be backed up, and it will pretty much take the first thing that comes in here, because this stack will eventually be and eventually be depleted before the rest of the stuff can catch up and be transferred due to the flow of the items. Okay, so this is actually starting to near its completion of counting the items out, and once again it will send exactly 5 stacks with the limiter that I've placed on it. Any further items placed in there will actually be held back until the cart returns. Okay, as you can see, almost all the items are now in place. We are now approaching our final stack. We still need to have the granite and smooth stone in the chest before it will be sent off. Okay, and this is the remaining amount of items that are needed for the system to be activated. As you can see down here, this is actually preventing this comparator to be activated, and let's see, there we go. Once these items are done, it will actually hold the signal until all the items are inside the minecart. There it goes. Okay. Okay, and there goes the minecart. The system is deactivated. Okay, so once again we have the simple receiver unit over here. All the items are being transferred. This is going to take a little bit longer. You can usually run this into an item sorter because this is actually going to become all mixed up, flip-flopped, and backwards on you because of the way the hoppers work. Let's go ahead and pop back over here. I'm just going to throw these into this hopper right here and let this start counting. This will automatically begin to start loading this hopper, which will then activate this circuit again. But because I only put 1 stack in here, it's not going to allow the minecart to head back out once it is done loading those 64 items. And that is simply because this hopper clock here will only have 1 stack missing from this side. Therefore it will not pulse and send it on its way. Okay, let's go ahead and have a look over here, see how this is doing. Okay, we're about halfway through here. Then pop into here. I put a little bit of a sorting system into here so it can fill up only in specific areas. Okay. Just a little further now. Okay, it's almost done with this stack, and then once it is done with the smooth stone, it will send it back on its way. And as you can see, this has actually stopped counting. There's exactly 1 stack missing, which is now over here. And this entire stack of birch wood that I placed in there is now ready to be placed into the chest. Now this works with industrial farms. However, if there can be a little bit of a backup, you can actually move this circuit back a bit and possibly even extend the clock by adding more clocks to it. Okay, so now this birch wood is being transferred into the chest, and once this is done, this will actually not be sent on its way because of the circuit and the limiter placed on the hopper clock. Okay, so it's a little bit more to go. Once this is done, the signal will be deactivated. As you can see, it did not get sent on its way. Reason is, this is only 1 stack. If we would have put 5 stacks in, it would have transferred all these over to the other side. Okay, let's see if we can reset this circuit here. And there you have it. I'm not really going to be doing any tutorials, as you've noticed, because I'm going over all the circuitry of these as I do my little flyovers. This little section right here is just simply to lock it up so I can demonstrate it. Okay, let's move on to the next section. Here we are at a final stop on my Redstone World tour. This is a very simple furnace array gone really crazy. I've dubbed this the industrial refinery because of the simple size of it all. It does take a little while to smelt things up. You can actually find faster systems available on the internet. So let's pretty much get started with the rundown of the facility. Right here we got 3 sets of chests here. We have our smeltables area, our fuel area, and our finished product area. The levers on these sides will actually lock the hoppers underneath these 2 chests over here. Let's go ahead and walk this up really quick. Drop in a stack of iron ore here, 16 oak logs to refill the system, because it is going to use 1 piece of charcoal for every 8 of these, which is going to drop 8 into each of the furnaces, and then it's also going to use 1 more to smelt these down into it. It's going to drop 2 of these into each of them. Okay, let's have a bit of a tour here. So up here we have a couple sets of power rails here. These power rails are deactivated at the current time, but they will become active once the system is initiated. It's going to use a dropper elevator to place the items into the chests up here. The dropper elevators, I believe I designed myself. I do apologize if I hadn't. It's going to take a comparator, 2 repeaters, and some redstone dust. This actually has to be set into subtract mode. I've had a case where I filled this up completely where it wasn't in subtract mode. It wouldn't work. Flipped it into subtract mode with this piece of redstone here, which is vital for this design, and it started ticking away. Speaking of ticks, this is also set to 2 ticks because I've also had items get trapped in this dropper right here until another item gets placed into here and pushes it upward. This simply goes all the way up to the top, where we have a single stage. This clock right here will activate it for only 1 layer. Any layers above that, it won't go any further. You will actually have to set up the other one in order to do so, or a separate type. This will then send a signal through here, going into here, powering it, and then placing the items into the minecart with the chest. This will also activate a NOR latch here. What this is going to do is it's going to take this piece of dirt right here and send it over this way. This is going to unpower this comparator and this pulse extender here. When this is finally unpowered, this redstone torch will become active, powering the rail here. Once the system is reset as well, that redstone torch will no longer be active. When this goes off, it will actually deactivate the NOR latch over here by sending the dirt back over here, deactivating the redstone torch. These pulse extenders will also keep the powered rail powered. However, it will only detect when there are items in it. It will allow it enough time to get back, and then once that is done, the rail will deactivate. If there are no longer any items, this will not be activated, and therefore the powered rail underneath the sending area will no longer be active, allowing for the cart to stop. These switches right here simply as a reset mechanism. As you can see right here, if I push this, it'll send it on its way, and the cart will get stuck. So I've allowed this to be placed in for a maintenance hatch. Once that is done, simply turn that off so you don't have a constant power source going and potentially locking up your hoppers. Over here we have a slightly larger pulse extender due to the fact that when charcoal goes through the system, this pipeline right here will transport all items except for charcoal to the finished product chest. This item filter right here is going to take all the charcoal out of the return pipeline and place them into this elevator right here, which is also the same as the fuel line. I do believe I've seen Mumbo Jumbo build this before. I don't remember exactly who designed this one, but it does work, and to prevent overloading and possible leakage of items, what I usually do is I usually take 5 snowballs, place 3 here, 2 here, and I usually rename them something like Filter or Bob, depending on what mood I'm in. That will prevent anything else from being placed into there, and the only thing that will be able to move is charcoal right here. That will prevent the system from just simply unpowering itself and just leaking all items into every single area. Okay, with that being said, there's also a lock mechanism. When you get to a certain point past 5 stacks in this reserve hopper, once at least one item is placed into this hopper here, it will activate this comparator here, which will then send a signal through to this pulse extender down here, which will then also lock this dropper elevator, preventing any further items from going up and therefore plugging up the system completely. The same also applies to the fuel line area, but due to constraints I couldn't actually do the same system, and also because this is actually taken from the side. Once it has one reserve fuel source in this line of hoppers here, it will send the signal down this way. This is a simple redstone, I guess you can call it a drop circuit. I don't know what you would want to call this. This is the opposite of, say, like a torch tower. This actually sends a signal downward. Most people are sending it upward, but I needed to send it downward in this case. This will also send a signal over here, making it so that this comparator right here will not work. And I do apologize for all these empty blocks. These are all structure voids. I'm currently working on making a structure file for everyone to download and try out these builds. And without further delay, let's go ahead and open this up. Now, I do want to warn you that these droppers can get a little noisy. And then once the stack of iron ore is in here, as well as the 16 oak logs, it will automatically send this on its way and then retrieve the cart, resetting the system. And this redstone array right here is just there to lock it up for maintenance. Okay, you can also go down into here for maintenance if you have to manually check your furnaces, make sure they're all properly filled. Okay, I was originally going to do a full 8 stacks to show what the system can handle, but my original video for that actually ended up taking about 10 minutes to fill this whole thing. Okay, now that's done, this pulse extender is going to wait to deactivate that. Let's see if we can get a peek inside this cart right here. Okay, it's acting like a little inkjet printer head, dropping off 8 along the way. Okay, and on its way back it's going to do that. Now, because of the amount of items, it will take a little while for this to deactivate. There it goes. Now that that's no longer the case, it stops the minecart, and then this will deactivate momentarily. Okay, there it goes. Okay, now let's go ahead and pop down here. This thing does work fairly fast. It looks like I had a little bit of extra in there. Looks like I forgot to take out some of the iron from my last run. Okay, so this is going to finish running. And then once this is all done, the oak logs that I placed in there are going to begin smelting. And then, because it's going to use up one more, that's why I put in 2 per furnace. Okay, there it goes. And you will usually get results back in intervals of 8. The last one takes a little bit of time to get up, to catch up with the rest of them. Okay, once that's done, we're now smelting our charcoal down, which is going to be filtered out and placed automatically into the sending unit right here. And this is the reason why I've added an extra segment onto the pulse extender, because it's going to take a little while for all the charcoal to filter into it, and I don't want to send it off on its way prematurely, because that will make a mess if you get any of this timing off. Okay, I do apologize for not actually going over all the circuit timings and everything. Okay, so that's actually done. Usually it requires just a little bit of tinkering sometimes with my builds. Most of them are still work in progress. All that is done. As you can see, it's also refilled. And if we go over to here, all of our iron is done as well. Okay. Sometimes there is a bit of a delay on some of these circuits, sometimes there is not. Most of the time it's just straightforward redstone. I do tend to use delays occasionally, such as right here if I didn't fall down. Okay, I don't know why this one doesn't have a delay on it. You don't always need delays on most of my circuits, but sometimes it helps to kind of catch up with it, catch a little bit of a glimpse of a digital clock I built. Okay, and thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. As I said, this is my very first video, so once again I apologize for any poor quality of sound or video. I may be uploading more, I don't know. Please feel free to leave comments for improvements, and I will catch you all later.